All right, today we're diving into one of the most pivotal moments in the entire Hebrew Bible, Exodus chapter 24. And let me tell you, this is so much more than just a story. It's this incredibly dramatic, foundational account of how an entire people made a sacred agreement with their God, an event that would literally shape history for thousands of years.
But before we jump into all the details, let's just pause for a second and think about this question. How do you make a promise sacred? I mean, truly sacred. We're not talking about a handshake or, signing on the dotted line. We're talking about a binding pact, something so powerful it could alter the course of history. That's the real challenge, right at the heart of this chapter.
Okay, so our story kicks off right at the foot of the famous Mount Sinai. Picture this. Moses has just come down from speaking with God, and he's carrying a message for all the people of Israel. It's a whole set of divine laws and judgments, basically the blueprint for their entire new community.
And the people's response? It's just incredible. It's immediate. It's unified. It's absolute. Think about it. There's no debate, no forming a committee to discuss it, not even a moment of hesitation. The text says they answered with one voice, committing themselves completely. This right here is the foundation, a promise made by an entire nation, all at once.
Now, what they're agreeing to here is something the text calls a covenant, and it's really important we get what this word means. This is so much more than just a contract, It's a deep, solemn, binding relationship. It's a pact that comes with huge promises, serious obligations, and a totally new shared identity.
But here's the thing, words alone, even words spoken all together, just aren't enough to seal a deal this big. So what comes next is this incredibly formal, deeply symbolic ceremony. It's designed to make this promise real, something you can see, something you can feel, something you could never, ever forget. So let's break down this ritual, because it's absolutely fascinating. First, Moses builds an altar that represents God, and then 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. So right away, you've got both parties physically represented. After making offerings, he takes half the blood and sprinkles it on the altar, basically sealing God's side of the agreement. Then, and this is the crucial part, after reading the whole covenant out loud again, he sprinkles the other half of the blood on the people themselves. It creates this direct, physical, undeniable link between them and the promise they just made.
I mean, this is the absolute climax of the whole ceremony. That blood, it's not just a symbol of life. It is the seal on this covenant. By participating in this, both God and the people are now bound by the very same lifeblood of the very same promise. The imagery is just, wow, it's staggering in its intensity.
Okay, so the covenant is sealed for the entire nation. But the story's not over, not by a long shot. It takes a new turn, because now a very select group gets an invitation to go up the mountain, to move beyond just making promises and into a direct encounter. So who gets this special invitation? Well, it's definitely not the whole nation. It's the core leadership team, you could say. You've got Moses, his brother Aaron, Aaron's two sons, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. They're basically acting as representatives for everyone else, and they're about to get a much closer, much more privileged view of things. And what they experience up there is just astonishing. The text says they saw the God of Israel, but notice how it doesn't even try to describe God's form. Instead, it focuses on what's under his feet, this incredible pavement of sapphire stone, as brilliantly blue and crystal clear as the sky itself. It's this vision of cosmic order, of perfect stability, and just overwhelming beauty. And this comparison is so telling because it just brilliantly illustrates the importance of perspective. So on one hand, you have the 74 leaders experiencing this serene, beautiful vision of clarity and sapphire. But what do the people way down at the bottom of the mountain see? They see a devouring fire. The exact same divine presence is seen as both beautiful and absolutely terrifying, all depending on where you're standing. But even that incredible vision, that's not the final destination. The ascent isn't over. The journey up the mountain keeps going. But from this point forward, it's going to be a solitary one. Yeah, God calls to Moses, and only Moses, telling him to come all the way to the summit. And the purpose is very specific. He's going to receive the law, not just as spoken words anymore, but physically inscribed by God himself onto tablets of stone. This is all about making that covenant permanent, tangible, real.
And it feels really fitting to look at the source text itself right here. Just think, as Moses was about to receive the law carved into physical stone, what we're looking at is the physical text that has preserved that exact story for thousands of years. It's our own tangible link back to this incredible moment of law, ritual, and revelation. So Moses tells the elders to wait right there. He keeps climbing, and for part of the way his assistant Joshua is with him, but eventually he has to leave him behind too. He is about to leave the world of men behind completely and walk right into the very presence of God, which the text describes as this thick, heavy cloud covering the entire mountain. And this isn't some quick meeting. The text really emphasizes a period of waiting. Imagine this. For 6 long days, Moses just waits. He's on the mountain, completely surrounded by this cloud, in total silence. Nothing happens. Then finally, on the 7th day, a voice calls out to him from the very heart of that cloud. What a powerful moment of testing, of patience, right before the final revelation. And once he finally enters that cloud, Moses stays there for 40 days and 40 nights. 40. That number is so deeply symbolic in these texts, right? It almost always represents a period of intense trial, of transformation, of preparation. He is completely and utterly isolated, receiving the very foundations of an entirely new legal and moral order for his people.
So when you step back and look at it, what we've really traced is this incredible path. It goes from a unified promise to a visceral blood ritual, to a shared beautiful vision, then a long patient wait, and finally, a completely solitary encounter at the peak. It all leads us to one final question to think about. What does this ancient story suggest is truly required to bridge that immense gap between the human and the divine? Something to ponder. Thanks for joining me for this.